You ever have one of those mornings where you think, well, this is how I die? Either of frostbite or sheer stupidity? Yeah, that was me standing in my kitchen, coffee in hand, when I heard it. That sound. Not thunder, not a branch falling. No. It was the kind of noise that tells you metal and wood just decided to try and occupy the same space. The sickening crunch at the bottom of my driveway knew instantly someone had slammed into my old oak tree. I didn't even have time to finish my coffee. Just set it down and grabbed my coat and boots, cursing under my breath. You ever try pulling on boots half awake, knowing whatever waits outside is probably not going to make your day any better? Vermont in January, ice storms turning every step into a coin toss with gravity air so cold it stings your teeth. I made my way down the driveway and there it was. Honda Accord crumpled around my oak like a bad magic trick gone worse. Hood steaming, the kind of scene you wish you could blame on someone else. And then, of course, out stepped Victoria Daniels. Of all people. If you don't know a Victoria Daniels, count your blessings. She's the kind of person who thinks HOA president should be a government position, maybe with a crown. Meadowbrook Estate's half a mile away. Yet somehow she thought my land was her personal kingdom. I dealt with her twice before, both times her showing up at my door like she was on some righteous mission to save the neighborhood from my lawn, my old truck, my existence, really. Marcus, she shrieked. Honest to God, I thought glass might break. She tottered toward me, nearly slipping. She was wearing, get this, heels. Designer, probably Italian. Probably cost more than my month's groceries, and about as useful on ice as a paper umbrella. Look what you've done. My car. Look at my car. I stopped. Kept my distance. Are you hurt? Seemed like the thing to ask. Her face went from horror to offended. Am I hurt? My car is totaled. This is your fault. You know, for a second I thought about just turning around, but I took a breath, white puffs in the air, and asked again. Are you physically injured? Do you need an ambulance? She waves her hand, almost falls, still ranting. No thanks to you, but my car. You're paying for this. I tried to keep it civil. Why don't we get you inside, get warm, and figure it out? And because you never know when you'll need proof. I started snapping pictures. The insurance adjuster and me, old habits. She went off about me distracting her, how this was negligence, how I failed to maintain my road for public safety. I paused, lowered the phone. Victoria, this is my private driveway. You're not supposed to be here. She cut me off. That's beside the point. Her hair flawless somehow, even in the wind, whipped around as she talked. You have a responsibility to maintain safe conditions. So picture this standing on ice, arguing with a woman in heels in front of a car that's become one with a tree while your coffee gets cold in the kitchen. This is how sitcoms get written. She finally admitted she'd come to discuss HOA business. I said again, I'm not in your HOA. She just scoffed. You should be. Your property is an eyesore. I'd heard this before. Bought my land before Meadowbrook was even a sketch on a city planner's napkin. My own access road, no shared anything, just 3 acres of leave me alone. I tried once more. Let's get inside, call a tow warm-up. She followed, huffing and puffing, cursing every step, telling me how Meadowbrook had proper maintenance. I kept quiet. Sometimes silence is all you've got. Inside, I handed her the phone. Call who you need, I'll get the tow info. She stabbed at her phone. I'm calling my lawyer. I turned for what she answered, to sue you. For negligence, for trauma. I swear if I had $1 for every time someone's threatened to sue me, I could retire tomorrow. Victoria, you weren't invited. There's no obligation. She cut me off now, reciting some half-remembered legal code. Property owners have a duty of care. To reasonable visitors, I said. There's no reason for you to be here. She called her lawyer anyway. I left her, called Jake's towing old friend, pulled me out of more ditches than I care to admit. Honda Accord versus Oak Tree. Oak Tree won, Accord 0. Jake laughed, said he'd be there in an hour. When I got back, Victoria was painting a picture to her lawyer, my land a death trap. Me, some rural villain. Gross negligence, reckless endangerment, significant damages. I sat in my armchair, coffee finally in hand, waited her out. She hung up, turned to me all puffed up. My lawyer says we have an excellent case. You'll be hearing from us. I just said tow truck and 45. Coffee. She looked stunned, like I'd offered to poison her. I'm suing you, Marcus. I heard you. Still want coffee? I explained, calm as you please, that she'd driven onto my property on a day when every sane person stayed home. No salt, no sand, no legal obligation to have either for people who shouldn't be there in the first place. If you want to sue, go ahead. But I don't think it's going to work out for you. She was getting red now. Do you know who I am? She said my property was tanking the neighborhood. We're not in the same neighborhood. We went around and around until Jake showed up, whistled low at the damage. She was moving, he said. Victoria denied it. Jake just shrugged, said insurance would figure it out. She insisted Jake send the bill to me. Jake said I just tow cars. While the Honda got loaded, I kept snapping photos, tire tracks, ice, the works. When Jake left, I offered Victoria a ride. She spat. I'm not getting in a car with you. Fine by me. She stood out there shivering until a black SUV picked her up. Before leaving, she glared at me. You haven't heard the last of this. I called my insurance, talked to Sarah, a rep with a sense of humor. She listened, then laughed. She drove onto your land, crashed, and now wants to sue you for not salting your driveway. That's the story. You'll be fine. Send the photos. She sounded amused. I appreciated it. But Victoria was well relentless. A few days later, certified letter from her lawyer, demanding $50,000 for damages, medical expenses, emotional distress. I sent it straight to my insurance, then called Patricia, my lawyer. Patricia's the real deal. Calm, tough, been through 100 of these. She read the letter, snorted. Ridiculous. No case. She's trespassing. Vermont law is clear. Patricia drafted a response, polite but firm, full of statutes, references, and the kind of language that lets you sleep at night. I thought maybe that would end it. But no. 2 weeks later, she filed a lawsuit. Now it was $75,000 for all sorts of new injuries she'd discovered in the meantime. Patricia got a little fire in her eyes. Now we fight, she said. We'll request her medical records, documentation, everything. We'll depose her. You ever see a bulldog with a chew toy? That was Patricia going after every crack in Victoria's story. Depositions were something else. Victoria stuck to her story. She had HOA business. Patricia pressed what business. Victoria got cagey. Community concerns. About a property not in your HOA. We have an interest in the area. Interest isn't jurisdiction. Her lawyer tried to step in. Patricia shut him down. For hours, she pulled apart Victoria's claims. Turns out Victoria went to the doctor once, got some Tylenol, and was cleared for normal activities. No chronic pain, no trauma. We subpoenaed weather records, ice storm warning issued 12 hours before the crash. Jake's tow report said she was going way too fast. Patricia filed for summary judgment. Courtroom day, Judge Hamilton presiding. No nonsense. Victoria and her lawyer put on their best show, but the judge saw through it. Mr. Morrison had no notice you'd visit. You chose to drive in an ice storm. He has no obligation to salt his private driveway for uninvited visitors. Patricia summed it up. She trespassed, drove recklessly, no evidence of significant injury. The judge agreed, case dismissed with prejudice. Victoria gasped. Patricia and I walked out grinning, thought that would be the end of it. No, not with Victoria. Next month, complaint from the city, unmaintained structures, junk vehicles, hazards. The inspector, David, looked around, apologized. It's pretty clearly retaliatory. He found nothing. Victoria filed 3 more complaints, all baseless. After the 4th, the city sent her a warning, keep it up and she'd get fined. So Victoria pivoted. Social media posts in local groups warning folks about me. Most people rolled their eyes, but a few joined her crusade. She even tried to get the county to force my property into her HOA. That got laughed out of the room. But she wasn't done. One cold February day, Victoria came up my drive again, this time with 2 HOA board members, Brenda and Cheryl. I was splitting wood, just wanted to be left alone. We want you to join the HOA, Victoria said. Not happening. We're expanding boundaries. That's not how HOAs work. Brenda tried to play good cop. Cheryl tried legal jargon. I pulled out my phone, called Patricia. She asked to be put on speaker. Ladies, this is Patricia Williams, Mr. Morrison's attorney. Leave his property immediately. You cannot force membership. You cannot file liens. Do so, and you'll be facing fraud and harassment charges. Brenda and Cheryl backed away. Victoria's face turned bright red, but she finally left. Patricia said, time to go on the offensive. I hesitated, but she was right. So we filed a harassment lawsuit, laid out everything. Lawsuit, complaints, threats, trespassing, social media. Within a week, the HOA board wrote me apologizing, removing Victoria, wanting to settle. Victoria, though, fought on, filed motions, but Judge Hamilton shut her down again. In the end, the HOA paid 20 grand, promised to leave me alone forever. Victoria coughed up 15 grand, had to apologize in writing, delete her posts, and stay off my property. When she broke the agreement, Patricia enforced the penalty clause, got another 10 grand out of her, and required her to go through mediation before mentioning me in public ever again. You might think I felt like a hero. Truth, I just felt relieved. The apology letter, clearly lawyer written, now hangs framed in my garage. Brenda called to let me know Victoria had violated the agreement again. This time the settlement clause did its job. Victoria paid up and finally disappeared. But here's the twist. A few months later, I ran into Cheryl, the former secretary. Turns out with Victoria gone, the whole HOA fell apart. Most people voted to dissolve it. Nobody wanted the drama or the fees. Turns out, left to their own devices, folks actually got along better. I thought about that driving home, sun setting over the Green Mountains, my old Ford truck right out front, the oak tree still standing, scarred, but alive. I realized something sitting on my porch that night. Standing your ground, setting boundaries, sometimes that's the only way to protect what's yours. I'd never set out to fight, but I'd been forced to. And with a lot of patience and help from the right people, I'd come out the other side exhausted but proud. You ever wonder where the line is between being neighborly and being a pushover? Between letting things go and fighting for what's right? Because I do. And after all this, I can tell you sometimes you've got to weather a few storms to come out stronger. The law isn't always perfect, but when it works, it works. The HOA dissolved. Victoria moved away. My driveway stayed icy every winter. My insurance company learned to expect the unexpected from rural Vermont. Patricia turned our saga into a cautionary tale for lawyers all over the county. The local paper ran a story, "When HOAs Go Too Far," with my case as the headline. And me, I still live here on 3 acres of peace and quiet. My truck, my tree, my rules. Nobody ever bothered me about HOA business again. So tell me, where would you draw the line? When does standing your ground become being unreasonable? And when is it the only thing you can do? I'd love to hear what you think, especially if you've tangled with an HOA or stood up to someone who thought they owned more than they did. Tell me your story. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that you're never as alone as you think.